In this lecture, and probably the next, we're going to be discussing Gmail and calendar integration. And there's some very powerful capabilities with regards to how Comet can interact with your Gmail and with your Google Calendar. So as an example, it can do inbox summarization. So it can, Comet can read and summarize your latest email threads so you can save time catching up. Of course, this is assuming you're using Gmail as your primary email service. A lot of us use Outlook, and that's not going to be as useful here. And then especially useful for scanning busy inboxes and extracting main points. Again, that's assuming that Gmail is your main email provider. And then drafting and sending responses. So AI can propose, write, and send very intelligent email replies based on context and content. Ideal for handling routine queries, quick follow-ups, and even scheduling meetings. And then there's inbox automation. So you can automate email tasks like unsubscribing from newsletters and performing bulk actions. You can identify, although not quite where it should be at the moment, that'll probably get better, but you can identify action items or missed opportunities in your inbox. And that's always subjective anyway, so that's a little questionable. And then contextual workflow. So you can pull up emails related to meetings or trips or specific topics just by asking. In fact, we're going to see a little bit of that when we go into our demonstration of how this works without doing any manual searching. Okay, and then on the calendar side, we've got AI-driven scheduling. So Comet can analyze your calendar, identify available slots, and then can schedule meetings or appointments automatically. And it can create calendar invites. It can add any relevant information that might be necessary. It even knows how to handle time zones for remote teams. And then it can handle to-do list and event mapping. So you can paste a task list, and Comet then will intelligently distribute the tasks within your calendar, finding optimal time slots. It can incorporate additional notes. It can use reminders and contextual details pulled from emails or other apps. And then it can also do some meeting prep. So it can retrieve a conversation history, draft questions or agenda items, and then attaches them directly to event invites. Now, you may wonder about security, and you shouldn't, because data is encrypted end to end. It's only stored locally and only shared with AI when specifically required for any tasks. So security really is not an issue. Now, there are some limitations, and I think this is primarily due to the fact that it's so new, and this is going to get better over time. But I've noticed it may occasionally miss important action items or miscategorize messages. Some tasks do require some manual intervention, and there could always be a slight delay when executing some actions due to processing overhead, but my gosh, it may be slightly noticeable, but it's certainly worth the increase in efficiency. Now, I do want to show you one thing you're likely to run into on occasion, at least the first time that you attempt to interact with your Gmail or your calendar. Now, notice I don't have Gmail actually loaded in a tab, and that's okay because you don't have to. I'm going to ask it a question. I'm going to say, well, let's say this. How many messages do I have in my trash folder? My Gmail, I better say my Gmail. My Gmail trash folder. Okay. I'm going to send this. And now you're likely to see this. Connect your Gmail and Google Calendar. Okay, get answers to your emails and calendar events. Now, the reason it's asking to connect is it's necessary because Google, as of March of this year, March of 2025, mandates that any communication or any communication by third-party applications requires OAuth 2 authentication. Now, I'm not going to get into what OAuth 2 authentication is. It's a way of identifying who is accessing your Gmail and your calendar. But basically, Google, as of earlier this year, completely discontinued support for less secure authentication methods, requiring all applications, including Comet, of course, to use OAuth. for accessing Gmail or Google Calendar or Google Contacts, etc. Now, basically what this means is that Comet cannot access your email or calendar data using simple username and password authentication. Okay, it must establish a secure token-based connection, which is what OAuth is, through Google's OAuth system. So that's why we're seeing this dialog here that says connect your Gmail and Google Calendar. Okay, so I click the dialog and it's asking me to choose an account, which I will. I'll choose my Gmail account and sign into the Perplexity connector. Google will allow Perplexity connector. Now the connector, any connector, is just a mechanism that allows one app to communicate with another. So Perplexity is using a connector to talk to basically these Google services. So I'm going to say continue and select what Perplexity connector can access. Now, what you allow it to access is entirely up to you, but I'm going to say select all and then continue. And now we're good to go, and that's all we have to do. Okay, so basically it gave me a message. I am unable to access your Gmail account because you are not currently authenticated. Well, apparently I must have tried before I finished the whole authentication process. So then I said, I have logged in and I am authenticated. How many messages do I have in my trash folder? And it came back and it said, you currently have at least 10 messages in your Gmail trash folder. Now, I don't know why it couldn't actually count how many I have, but it didn't. The count is based on the most recent search, which returns a sample of up to 10 messages, but does not represent the full total. Okay, and then it tells me if I want the full total, it tells me how I can do it. Well, I already know how to do that. That's not a big deal. So apparently it is able to access my Gmail and all of my calendar, Gmail and calendar assets. But for whatever reason, it couldn't generate a total. But at least now I know I'm connected, and then we can move forward with showing what kind of things we can do with Comet and Gmail and Google Calendar.